It's a very bad news. Jim Bob killed Michelle. Own hands. Jim Bob's 10-year JEIL $1 million loss. Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. For Duggar family latest news update, please subscribe the channel and press the bell icon. The Duggar family, once celebrated as America's perfect conservative family, had always carried an aura of strict faith, family values, and discipline. But behind the glossy surface of smiles and large family traditions, a storm was quietly brewing, a storm that would shake not only the household but also shock the entire world. This is the tragic and scandalous tale of how Jim Bob Duggar killed Michelle with his own hands, his sudden police arrest, his 10-year jail sentence, and the staggering $1 million loss that followed. The beginning of the end. For decades, Jim Bob and Michelle had stood as the patriarch and matriarch of one of America's largest families. Their TV shows 19 Kids and Counting On had made them household names. With fame came fortune, but also a crushing weight of expectation. Behind closed doors, arguments between Jim Bob and Michelle had been escalating for years. Their once loving relationship had turned bitter. Michelle had grown increasingly frustrated with Jim Bob's controlling nature. He dictated finances, their children's marriages, even what clothes the women wore. Michelle, who had sacrificed her life raising 19 children, felt suffocated. She longed for respect and independence. Jim Bob, however, saw any challenge to his authority as betrayal. His pride as the head of the household was being tested, and so, their home, once filled with the laughter of children, was becoming a war zone of whispered arguments, slammed doors, and silent dinners. The fatal night. It happened on a rainy September night. The Duggar family home in Springdale, Arkansas, was unusually quiet. Most of the adult children had moved out, leaving behind only a few younger ones. Michelle was in the kitchen, her face pale, her eyes heavy with sadness. She had just confronted Jim Bob about the family's collapsing finances. $1 million in investments had been lost due to risky property deals Jim Bob had pursued without consulting her. Michelle accused him of being reckless, of dragging the family into ruin. Jim Bob, already stressed and furious, snapped. The argument turned violent. What began as shouting escalated into pushing, then choking. In a fit of uncontrollable rage, Jim Bob's hands tightened around Michelle's neck. She gasped for air, tears streaming down her face, and then, it was over. Michelle Duggar, the gentle matriarch loved by millions, lay lifeless on the kitchen floor. Jim Bob stared at his hands in horror. The reality of what he had done began to sink in. The discovery. The younger Duggar children were the first to witness the aftermath. A terrified Jana, who had been staying overnight to help with household chores, walked into the kitchen and found her mother's body. Her scream echoed through the house. The police were called. By the time officers arrived, Jim Bob was sitting motionless at the kitchen table, his head in his hands. He did not resist. The news spread like wildfire, breaking Jim Bob Duggar arrested for murder of wife Michelle. The world was stunned. Social media exploded with disbelief. Fans who had once admired the family's wholesome image now flooded the internet with anger, confusion, and grief. The arrest and trial. At the police station, Jim Bob was charged with second-degree murder. During interrogation, he broke down, admitting to what happened but claiming he didn't mean to kill her. The trial was one of the most sensational in Arkansas history. Reporters from across the country gathered outside the courthouse. Inside the courtroom, Duggar children sat in rows, their faces pale and tear-stained. Jessa sobbed uncontrollably, unable to believe her father could take her mother's life. Jill, long estranged from the family, sat silently, holding her husband Derek's hand, torn between anger and sorrow. Josh Duggar, already disgraced from his own scandals, appeared briefly, but his presence only fueled public outrage. The prosecution painted Jim Bob as a manipulative, controlling man whose pride and temper had finally exploded into violence. The defense argued it was a tragic accident, a moment of uncontrolled rage. After weeks of testimony, the jury delivered its verdict guilty. Jim Bob Duggar was sentenced to 10 years in prison. The fallout. The impact on the Duggar family was catastrophic. Financial ruin with Jim Bob in prison and Michelle gone. The family empire collapsed. TLC permanently cut ties with the Duggars, canceling all reruns and contracts. Sponsors fled overnight. The real estate empire Jim Bob had built crumbled under lawsuits and unpaid debts. Court documents revealed that his reckless investments had caused a loss of $1 million, leaving the children scrambling to support themselves. Emotional devastation. The Duggar children were shattered. The family that had always stood united under their parents' strict rules was now fractured beyond repair. Jana, the oldest daughter, became the caretaker, stepping into Michelle's role to help raise the youngest siblings. Jinger, living far away in Los Angeles, openly criticized her father, calling his actions unforgivable. Joanna admitted in interviews that she no longer trusted the Duggar way of life. The once proud Duggar legacy was now nothing more than a tragic headline. Public reaction. America was divided. Some expressed sympathy for Jim Bob, saying he had snapped under pressure. Others condemned him, demanding a harsher sentence. Former friends from their church community distanced themselves, ashamed to be associated with the scandal. Meanwhile, true crime documentaries began filming almost immediately. Streaming platforms competed for exclusive rights to tell the story of the Duggar murder. What was once a symbol of faith and family had now become a dark cautionary tale. Life in prison. Inside prison, Jim Bob was no longer the powerful patriarch he once was. Stripped of control, stripped of family, he became just another inmate. Reports described him as withdrawn, spending long hours in prayer, trying to convince himself that God would forgive him. But forgiveness from his children and the world seemed far away. Letters from some of his children went unanswered. Others never wrote at all. The man who had once preached about family unity now sat alone, haunted by the memory of Michelle's last breath. The family tries to heal. Without Michelle, the Duggar children leaned on each other. Slowly, they began to build new lives. Jill and Derek helped the younger siblings seek therapy. Jessa started sharing more openly about grief and healing, hoping her honesty might help others. But the shadow of what Jim Bob had done never disappeared. Every family gathering was marked by the empty chair where Michelle once sat. A shattered legacy. The Duggar name, once synonymous with faith and family, was now forever linked to tragedy and murder. Michelle's grave became a place of pilgrimage for fans and supporters. Flowers and letters covered the site, messages of love and sorrow from strangers who had once admired her on TV. Jim Bob's name, meanwhile, became a cautionary tale, a symbol of pride, control, and downfall. The story of the Duggars had ended, not with joy or blessing, but with death, prison, and the destruction of everything they had built. Josh Duggar's wife, Anna, might be moving to a $1 million home purchased by Jim Bob Duggar. Anna Duggar might be moving into a new home while her husband is in prison. In 2022, Josh Duggar was sentenced to about 12.5 years in prison for receiving child pornography. The 19 kids and counting alum is expected to be released from prison in October 2032. Meanwhile, his wife, Anna, and her 7 children have been living with Josh's parents, Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar. But that might change soon, as reports indicate that Anna might be preparing to relocate. Josh reportedly didn't want his wife to move away from his family. Anna, 36, shares daughters 15-year-old Mackenzie, 9-year-old Meredith, 5-year-old Mariella, and 3-year-old Madison, and sons 13-year-old Michael, 11-year-old Marcus, and 7-year-old Mason, and with Josh, who is 37. She and her kids have been living with Josh's parents even though she reportedly wanted to move to Texas to be closer to him, In Touch reported. According to the publication, Josh didn't want Anna to move away from his parents because he was worried that she might feel compelled to leave him. He thinks it will create too much of a disconnection for her and his kids, an insider previously told In Touch. Jim Bob recently purchased a house in Arkansas. On April 23rd, In Touch reported that Jim Bob recently bought a home for around $1 million. It's conveniently located just minutes from Jim Bob and Michelle's compound, one source claimed. Rumor has it that the house is for Anna and her kids. That way, she'd still be close to Josh's parents. The home has 6 bedrooms and multiple lavish features. The 6,318 square foot property is in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Who the house is for has not been confirmed, but with 6 bedrooms and 4.5 bathrooms, the home for Anna's family. Per In Touch, it also features walk-in closets and a whirlpool bathtub. Anna has reportedly been earning money through a controversial job. With her husband in prison, Anna has reportedly been working as a dog breeder to earn money for her family. In December 2024, the U.S. Sun reported that Anna breeds golden retrievers. The publication also reported that Anna continues to her husband in prison. Ahead of Josh's sentencing, Anna supported him. She added, "Josh has chosen how history will remember him. By staying and supporting him, you're allowing him to choose that for you, too. And I know standing up to all of this seems impossible now, but as a mama, your instinct to protect your kids always has to be stronger than your fear." Josh Duggar's request for a court-appointed lawyer has been denied. Even after a judge rejected Josh Duggar's appeal in his child pornography case in 2023 and again in 2024, the former reality star hasn't given up on trying to escape serving the rest of his sentence. But unfortunately for him, he's hit yet another dead end. His request for a court-appointed lawyer has been denied in his latest attempt to have his case reconsidered, and it certainly seems like he's running out of options at this point. The motion he filed was denied last week. As Arkansas local news affiliate KNWA reported on June 5, 2025, U.S. Magistrate Judge Christy Comstock said Josh's motion lacked sufficient detail and thus didn't justify his request. According to the news outlet, if the petition presents a non-frivolous claim and other factors, such as legal or factual complexity warrant assistance, a lawyer could have been appointed. But in this case, it seems those standards weren't met. He asked for a court-appointed lawyer in May. In the documents Josh filed, he claimed that new legal theories and strategies that have emerged in public discourse could help him fight his conviction. And because, as an incarcerated person, he is unable to afford an attorney on his own, he wanted the court to appoint one to him. The defendant requests counsel for the limited purpose of reviewing the record, evaluating possible constitutional claims, and, if meritorious grounds exist, preparing and filing a motion. Read the documents he filed. He wrote a letter to Judge Timothy L. Brooks. As the Sun reported, Josh wrote a letter to the judge who presided over his case when he was convicted and sentenced, Timothy L. Brooks, as part of his request. "During my time of incarceration, I have worked diligently to focus on education, personal growth, my faith, and to maintain strong family ties," Josh wrote in the letter. "However, as I review my case, I believe there are significant issues relating to trial errors, evidentiary rulings, and other constitutional violations that merit a thorough post-conviction review." He continued, "I am unable to fully assess these matters on my own, which is why I seek the assistance of qualified counsel to help evaluate whether relief is justified. At this point, it seems likely Josh will have to serve his full sentence. Try as he might to have his conviction vacated, it appears the former 19 Kids and Counting star has officially run out of options. He's not due to be released from FCI Seagoville, the federal prison facility where he has been serving out his sentence, until October 2032, so he might want to get comfy if he hasn't already. It's going to be a while." Jessa Duggar get lost. Ben Sewell Duggar family drama. It was a sweltering August morning in Springdale, Arkansas, when the Duggar household's peace shattered like thin glass. What began as an ordinary day of routine chores and cheerful chatter spiraled into one of the most explosive confrontations the family had seen in years. The day started innocently enough. Jessa Seawald was busy in the kitchen, the scent of cinnamon rolls and strong coffee drifting through the air. She had no idea that by sundown, she would be packing boxes, yelling at her husband, and making a decision that would shake the entire Duggar family tree. The first shock, the trigger for the day's chaos, arrived in the form of a single text message. Jinger Vuolo, Jessa's younger sister, had been scrolling on her phone in Los Angeles when she stumbled upon a tabloid headline that made her spit out her iced latte. Ben Seawald's secret ex-wife speaks out. Hidden marriage before Jessa revealed. Jinger froze, her heart thudding. She immediately texted the article to Jessa with a single line, "Please tell me this is fake." Back in Arkansas, Jessa was wiping sticky cinnamon glaze off her hands when her phone buzzed. She opened the message, saw the headline, and nearly dropped the phone into the sink. "What in the world?" she muttered, clicking the link. The article claimed that before meeting Jessa, Ben had been secretly married for 9 months to a woman named Madeline Carter, a fiery, dark-haired musician from Missouri. They had supposedly met at a Christian youth retreat when Ben was only 19. The marriage, the report said, ended abruptly and quietly after irreconcilable differences. Jess's stomach churned. She had known Ben for years, been married for nearly a decade, had 4 children with him, and never once had he mentioned this woman. The confrontation, by the time Ben came in from his morning jog, Jessa was waiting at the kitchen table, the article pulled up on her iPad. Ben, she said, her voice deceptively calm, is there anything you want to tell me about a woman named Madeline Carter? Ben froze mid-step, his sweat-soaked shirt clinging to him. What, he stammered. Don't you want me? Jessa snapped, shoving the tablet toward him. Explain. Now Ben's face turned pale as he read. Jess, it's not what it looks like. Oh, so you weren't married to this woman? That's not your name in the marriage certificate they dug up. Ben rubbed his forehead. It was years before I met you. I was young, stupid. You were married, Ben. And you didn't think your wife deserved to know. The tension in the room thickened, the clock ticking ominously in the background. The Duggar family reacts. Word travels fast in the Duggar family. Within hours, Jess's sisters were calling, texting, and in some cases, driving over to her house to see if she was okay. Michelle Duggar tried to calm everyone down, but Jim Bob, who had always been wary of Ben, was fuming. I told you, he wasn't transparent, Jim Bob muttered to Michelle in the kitchen of the big Duggar house. First he's dragging Jessa into that tiny house, now this. What's next? Jill, who'd been on rocky terms with the family for years, called Jessa privately. Jess, you don't have to take this. You've got 4 kids to think about. Don't let him make a fool of you. Meanwhile, in California, Jinga was already messaging her Hollywood contacts, telling them not to feed the gossip machine, at least not yet, the property bombshell. As if the ex-wife revelation wasn't enough, another shock hit Jessa that same afternoon. She received an email from her realtor, the one who had been quietly helping her list a small rental property she'd inherited from a distant cousin. The message read, "Good news. The property sold for $1.9 million. Paperwork finalized this morning. Normally, this would have been a joyous moment. But Jess's joy turned to outrage when she saw the fine print. The buyer was listed as BC Holdings LLC, which, after some digging, she discovered was connected to Ben himself. She stormed into the living room, where Ben was scrolling on his phone. You bought my property, she yelled. Ben looked up, startled. Jess, I was trying to help. You stole it out from under me for some shady business thing? That was my inheritance, Ben. And you didn't even ask me. It's for our future. Jess's voice cracked with fury. You mean your future? Because right now, you don't have one with me. The get lost moment. By early evening, the fight had reached a fever pitch. The kids were at Michelle's house, leaving Jessa and Ben alone in the echoing rooms of their home. You lied about your past, you lied about my property, and you've been making decisions behind my back for years, Jessa said, her voice trembling. I am done. Ben tried to approach her, but she stepped back, pointing toward the door. Get lost, Ben. Just get lost. Ben's shoulders sagged. Jess, no. I mean it. Go stay at your parents' house. Stay at a hotel. I don't care. But you're not sleeping here tonight. He left without another word, the front door slamming shut behind him. Madeline Carter speaks. That night, as Jessa sat in her living room surrounded by half-packed boxes, the phone rang. The caller ID read, Madeline Carter. Jessa hesitated, then answered. Hello, hi Jessa? It's Madeline. I know you probably hate me, but I thought you deserved to hear from me directly. Jessa's heart pounded. Why now? I didn't want to be the one to hurt you. But the tabloids were going to run it with or without me, and I'd rather you have the truth. Ben, he wasn't a bad guy, but he wasn't ready to be a husband back then. And I guess he still isn't. The 2 women talked for nearly an hour. By the end, Jessa realized that Madeline wasn't the villain. She was just another woman who'd been blindsided by Ben's choices. The family divides. Over the next few days, the Duggar clan split into factions. Jim Bob and Jana sided firmly with Jessa, insisting she protect her assets and consider legal separation. Michelle, ever the peacemaker, urged counseling and forgiveness. Meanwhile, rumors swirled online. Some fans accused Jessa of overreacting. Others claimed Ben had been plotting financial moves for months. A few even suggested that Jim Bob had helped the news leak to force Ben out. Ben's plead a week later. Ben returned to the house, looking exhausted. "Jess, I messed up," he said, standing in the doorway like an unwelcome salesman. "But I love you. I love our kids. Please don't let this end us." Jessa crossed her arms. Love doesn't mean hiding your past. It doesn't mean taking what's mine without asking. "I need time, Ben. And maybe I need a lawyer." Ben's eyes widened. "A lawyer?" "Yes," she said firmly. "Because this isn't just about us anymore. It's about trust, and right now we don't have any." The final decision point 2 weeks later, Jessa announced to her family and later to the public that she and Ben were separating to reevaluate their marriage. The $1.9 million property sale was being legally challenged, and Ben's connection to it was under investigation. The Duggar family home buzzed with whispers and tension. Jim Bob quietly celebrated the news, while Michelle prayed for reconciliation. Fans flooded social media with opinions, theories, and Team Jessa hashtags. As for Jessa, she spent her evenings on the porch watching the sun set over the Arkansas hills, wondering if the man she married was ever truly the man she thought he was. And in a quiet motel room on the outskirts of town, Ben stared at his phone, scrolling through old photos of the family he might have just lost for good.